Welcome to another EleShop video. In this video we show the Guide E2 and E2 Plus thermal cameras in practice. In the previous video we already talked about the differences between the E2 and E2 Plus. In this video we will be focusing on starting out with how to use your thermal camera in practice. And we will discuss how to improve the accuracy of your readings. Let's dive in. Thermal cameras let you see the world through heat. Instead of capturing visible light, they detect infrared radiation, which all objects emit based on their temperature. Here is how it works. An infrared sensor inside the camera reads this radiation and converts it into a thermal image. Warmer areas appear in bright colors, like red or yellow, while cooler areas show up in darker shades, like blue or purple. This makes it easy to spot temperature differences across surfaces. While thermal cameras are great for identifying variations, they aren't designed for precise temperature measurements. Accuracy can vary up to 10 degrees Celsius due to factors like surface reflectivity, but for practical tasks like finding hot or cold spots, this is rarely an issue. From inspecting pipes to troubleshooting electronics, thermal cameras are a powerful and intuitive diagnostic tool. The Guide E2 is equipped with several key components. A visible light lens for capturing standard images, an infrared lens for thermal imaging, a laser pointer which doesn't have much practical use, a flashlight, which could be useful in some building inspection scenarios, a trigger button, which is used to capture images or videos. On top, you'll find a Type-C connector for charging and data transfer. Now, let me walk you through a quick demonstration of the camera settings. Yes, well, let's start with powering on the device. In this case I will be showing you the E2 Plus, but all the same menus and parameters are also for the normal E2. Now right away you will see a clear image. You see a few details like the battery life. In this case you will also see the center temperature, that's here in the corner. Also you will see the high temperature, which is the cup of tea that I just put. And also the lowest temperature, which is the room temperature here. Now it's 13 degrees here. You can switch the image mode right away. So now it's on infrared mode, what you expect from this camera. But also here we have fusion mode, which is quite nice. How it works is it uses the infrared mode and the visible light mode, and it stacks those together, which showcase way more details, which can be super useful in practice. Now, other modes that it has is visible light mode. Not much practical use for this. And then here it's also picture-in-picture mode. I really didn't use this much in practice, but maybe for somebody it can be useful. Okay, let's put it back in infrared mode. So now if I would like to make a picture, I just do the trigger once. Now it says it made a photo and it's saved. If I want to record a video, I just hold it for 2 seconds. You can see it's making a video now. And if you hold it again 2 seconds, then it will stop. Okay, now next thing I will show you is all the things in the menu. Now you can access the menu here. Here in a gallery you can see all the photos and videos that you have been taking. And this is called super resolution mode, which I encourage you to use because it makes a more upscaled image. Supposedly it has more loading time when you enable this, but in practice I didn't notice much difference. So I advise you just to keep this feature enabled. Then here we have temperature range, which has a few options. So you can do this in the low temperature mode, which is -20 to about 150 degrees. The next one is the high temperature mode, which is 0 to 550 degrees Celsius. And then the last option is called auto shift, so it automatically determines if it needs to be in low or high temperature mode. Now, I advise you to use it on auto shift, or you need to be very specific with the use case of the temperature, and then you can set it correctly there. Next up what we have is emissivity. Different materials emit with heat differently, so this parameter can be adjusted for that. Now in practice you will be seeing a lot of different materials in one picture, so we advise to just use this at the default setting of 0.95 and just accept that there will be a small deviation for that, but setting this up correctly is going to be nearly impossible. This is color palette. It lets you choose how thermal images are displayed using different color schemes. Here you can enable or enable the CenterPoint. This is also where it does a measurement, so leave it on enabled. Temperature unit, Celsius for us. Region of interest measure. So this is those high and low temperature points, and this can be adjusted in a specific region if you want. So here you can disable it or only use the center part, the center region of it, or just use the whole image. My advice is to just use it on the whole image, because then you can just see the highest temperature that's on the screen. Okay, moving on. Here we have temperature alarm. If it exceeds a high or a low temperature, it can give an alarm. If you monitor something for a longer period of time, this can be useful, but for normal use, just leave it off. Okay, here we have reflected measure, the ambient temperature of the environment around the target, which is taken into account in any measurement. Now, usually this has minimal impact on your measurement, so we advise you to leave it on the default setting of 22 degrees Celsius. Here we have the distance. This is the distance between the camera and the object. You can set this. Also, this has minimal impact on the result, so we just advise you to use the default setting of 0.5 meters. Now, there are way more features here, but I will not be covering them all, because else this video will become too long. These are quite general settings. Here the floodlight, the laser. You can adjust the language you can set, you can reset the device. But yeah, naming this all is not really worth anybody's time that is viewing this video. Okay, so let's go back here to the infrared mode. This is also something that I want to show you. You can also adjust the display range, which is the high and lower temperature that is shown here. So you can hold this button. Now it's in automatic mode. Here it's semi-automatic, so you can adjust a delta T, that's the high and lower temperature. Next, here we have fully manual, that you can adjust this by using these arrows here. Now, it's nice to use this when you want to investigate a small temperature difference, but are not so interested what the whole image can be. So you can adjust this here, but if you just use it normally, we advise to just use it on the automatic mode. We talked before about how a thermal camera is more practical for measuring cold and warm spots. That said, there are ways to make the camera's absolute temperature measurements more reliable. Acclimating a thermal camera is important because the camera itself is sensitive to temperature changes in its environment. For example, if the camera has just been moved from a cold to a warm room, or vice versa, the internal sensor can produce inaccurate readings. By allowing the camera to acclimate, you give it time to adjust to the ambient temperature. This ensures the sensor provides more stable and accurate results. It prevents the camera from measuring itself instead of focusing solely on the temperature of the object you are analyzing. Let the camera sit in the same environment for 15 to 30 minutes before starting measurements for optimal results. If you're looking for more background information, like operating conditions and a more detailed menu overview, check out the information on the Eleshop website. To summarize, the Guide E2 and E2 Plus are excellent tools for visualizing temperature differences. But keep in mind that it's not meant for pinpointing absolute temperatures. But with some adjustments, you can get more reliable results. I hope this gives you a good overview. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Thanks for watching and don't forget to check out our other videos for more tips and tricks.